Guys, welcome to Better Bachelor. My name is Joker with a face for radio and a voice for print. Today I want to talk about this lady here. Says, yeah, right, I'm sure you didn't notice his money. Look, when a guy gets a little bit older, you know, he's in his 50s or 40s or 60s or whatever, and he's very successful and he has a lot of money and he's doing well for himself. And he selects a 20-something or a 30-something, a younger woman who's you know, obviously known for her looks. I guess this is an Instagram something that has quite a few followers, so I'm sure there's plenty of bikini pics and silicone injections and everything else going on here. When that guy picks a woman like this, and if his friends were to ask him, dude, why did you pick her? He'd probably say, well, because I think she's hot. Whether you agree with that assessment or not, for me, the tattoos kind of ruin it for me. He'd probably say, because she's hot. And then we got to talking, and I like her, and so I want to be with her. And yes, I know she doesn't have any money, and yes, I know she's probably with me because I'm successful and I have money, but I don't care. I understand that, and I'm doing it because she's hot. But whenever you ask these women, like, why did you choose this guy? Miraculously, it's, well, he's funny and he's interesting, and we have so much in common, and in this case, she says he's the best lover I've ever had. But nowhere in there do they actually come forward and say, because he's got a lot of money and he makes my life a lot easier. So they won't say that. But then when you read the articles by these people, miraculously, their life is so much better now because he makes things easier. So I wanted to read this story. And then we're going to jump over and I'm going to make fun of this individual on Locals. I can't do it here on YouTube, but this is a trans-divergent, neurodivergent person with issues that wants to cry because work is hard. Work, apparently, and expecting work from people is very difficult. Before we get started, thank you guys very much who joined me on the movie stream last night for Halloween over at Locals. We did Alien and we did Young Frankenstein. So we streamed that from like 10 at night till about 2 in the morning. I had a lot of fun. Thank you guys for all your support and everything. And moonshine is interesting. I've actually got somebody that is going to find me some legitimate Tennessee moonshine, not the stuff you get at the stores. But even the stuff you get at the stores is pretty good. So I had really fun with that. If you guys like to partake, join us over there. We'll be doing movie nights probably every weekend. And I do have the Gilded server and our Valheim server up and running right next to me, and I'm looking at getting other games going. We're still in first place for the Race for the Retreat, for those of you that have asked. We've got like 2 days left. Today is the 30th. We've got 1 day left. We're still in first place currently, so let's keep our fingers crossed. So this is from Australia, land of the woke and feminism. Woman whose millionaire husband is 25 years her senior makes candid bedroom confession. She says someone's always going to say something, so you might as well do what makes you happy. I'm pretty sure, yeah, marrying a millionaire would make you a lot happier. And what's interesting, you guessed it, she's a single mom. Shocking.
I am shocked. Well, not that shocked.
A young mom whose millionaire husband is 25 years older than her claims that he's the best lover she's ever had, despite strangers calling him granddad. 28-year-old Leela, who has a 12-year-old daughter, says that meeting Bruce Griffin while she was looking for something casual with an established man. That makes me wonder, if you're looking for something casual with an established man, was this a sugar thing? You know what I'm saying? Like, was this a little bit of pay for play? And he's like, I'll keep her around. And she's like, he's rich. I'm gonna marry him and take half his crap. Bruce, 53, is an alternative energy entrepreneur and also owns several businesses. The pair got on like a house on fire, despite Bruce being almost twice her age and soon becoming inseparable. Leela, originally from North London, said Bruce caught her eye because he was financially stable. Notice that's the first thing she says. Funny, down-to-earth, mature, and a true gentleman. You know who this guy, he makes me think of Jim Gaffigan, the comedian. Like, he's kind of pasty, his hair's thinning a little bit. He's got the like graying ginger thing going. And look, no hate on the guy. He's successful. He did what I tell a lot of you guys to do, which is focus on money, focus on your job, and the women will come. And here's a 53-year-old that's got a 28-year-old woman. Now, the tattoos and Everything else and her being an influencer makes me wonder, what kind of woman he got. But he did get a 28-year-old that probably a lot of 28-year-old guys might like to bang, but they have no shot at her. So she went for the money. The big mistake, I really have no issues with this, except the mistake he made is he married her, which, again, as feminist as Australia is, he's going to lose his shirt when she gets bored of him and she can officially take half the paycheck. That was his mistake. The mom of one claims sparks also flew in the bedroom due to their great emotional connection. She said if she were blindfolded, she'd think he's 21 and not in his 50s. All right, so maybe he's a rather vigorous man in the bedroom. When they first met in October 2021, Leela was living in Tampa in the United States in the U.S. state of Florida, while Bruce resided in Vero Beach, a 3-hour drive away on the state's east coast. But the distance didn't keep them apart, and just 4 months later, they bought a house together in Tampa, where they now live. This is one of the things that always throws warning bells to me. If he were a smart guy, he'd say, like, look, we'll date for as long as you want to date, and I'll help you out on your rent, and maybe I'll lease you a new car and that you can use, and then see if she goes away, she doesn't get any of his money, he keeps the leased car, and her prizes are gone. That's the way you need to do this if you're going to be a smart dude. But I guarantee you, if I were going to do a search in the court paperwork 2 years from now in Florida, because I did a story talking about Gisele Bündchen and Tom Brady, where in the state of Florida they have some law where the woman deserves something like more than half, like a more than equitable share, I think is what the Florida law states. So this guy is already cruising for a bruising. So within 3 months or 4 months later, they bought a house together where they now live. Let me just correct that. He bought a house and she lives there with him. Let's be honest. They tied the knot in July, and that right there, yep.
Smart men don't get married.
Smart men don't get married. So being an entrepreneur, he's still an idiot. But he got that magic panani, and he said, "Wow, this must be real love." Leela says that living in a U.S. $1 million house, driving a McLaren, and owning several other vehicles has prompted jealousy from other critics. Now, they're not jealous of you. They just think that you're a gold digger. And look, here's the thing. I have no hate. If she's like, hey, I'm with him for his money, and he's with me for my magic fun box that he gets to enjoy, okay, fair trade. But he still screwed up by getting married to her. She says she's been forced to grow a thick skin as she's bombarded with comments online from jealous broke men in their 20s, branding her a gold digger, just going after a daddy. I don't think it's maybe the guys could be jealous, but you notice she refers to 20-somethings as jealous broke men. Why? Because a lot of 20-somethings are broke men. They have not established themselves. And again, this is why I tell you. Now, you may say, I don't want a gold digger. Like, I don't want to date a woman like that. Fine, rent one. But you'll have an easier time getting one if you're looking like Jim Gaffigan as a millionaire than you are as, unless you get ripped muscles and you're decent looking, you can find a girl then. She says you can't please everyone and shouldn't try to. And then she talks about their bedroom. Who cares? Me personally, I don't think she's that attractive. The tattoos kill it for me, and all the plastic look. I'm just not into the heavy makeup and all that. She says, the truth is, if he wasn't financially in the situation he's in, I wouldn't have met up with him. There you go. At least she's being frank. But then she goes on to say, but it's not about his money. See, and that's where it's like, okay, sure, sweetheart. I'm sure it wasn't about his money. If I wasn't a young, attractive woman, he wouldn't have met up with me. Yeah, that's a fair assessment. She's like, I like his established money. He likes my probably heavily established vagine. It's all about mutual attraction. She says, he says, I fell in love with a wonderful woman, not a woman's age, and I've never been happier. See, just say it, man. You fell in love with a young, hot chick, or who you think is hot. She says, I was looking for something casual, as was he. And what did she do? She love-bombed him. She love-bombed him and said, oh, I've never felt like this before. And you're so amazing. You're unlike the other 500 men I've slept with. And I want to be with you. And he's like, wow, this must be love. We should get married. And then it's over. He wanted a younger, attractive woman to spend some time with, and I wanted an established man. That just sounds like a sugar thing. After our first date, we quickly realized that wasn't going to be the case. It was love at first sight. He was just so down to earth and funny, and I've never been they go on. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but she says she was driving 3 hours to see him. Okay, I am going to read this actually. She would drive 3 hours from Tampa in her beaten up 10-year-old Ford Fiesta to see Bruce in Vero Beach. Guys, she took the time and she drove the 3 hours to see this guy. He didn't drive 3 hours to see her. Why? Because he's like, look, I'm not wasting my time driving to see you. If you want to see me, you come here. He set the rule and she followed it. Now, concerned that her car wasn't safe to travel those distances, he bought her a Subaru, and then 2 months later, he upgraded this to an Audi SQ8, which are upwards of Australian $165,000 brand new. That's like US $100,000. So he started shelling out. She describes her husband as a different breed. Dating older men is better because they have their shit together, she said, which is fine. Dating older guys, yeah, they do have their stuff together. But here's the thing, and I'm not going to make fun of that so much because that much is true. But the whole point of it is, would she be dating a plumber, or would she be dating a roofer or a welder or somebody else that wasn't spending this money on her? No. And she even said it, like, I was attracted to the fact that he's financially stable. So the big part I have with this whole story where this guy's such an idiot is he married her and he gave her legal access to all his stuff. And for everybody that says, oh, well, there's prenuptial agreements and all that, there's many cases where if you make now this is the newest thing that they're trying, that women are trying and lawyers are trying, is if you say to get married, you must sign a prenuptial agreement. What happens is when the divorce comes around, the lawyers are coming forward and saying she had to sign this under duress, meaning that he wasn't going to marry her unless she signed a prenuptial agreement. So she was put under pressure and duress, and thus it must be thrown out. And some courts are letting them get tossed out on this. So I'm sorry, there's just no marriage does not give any benefits to a man ever. Period. End of statement. I just do not care. She says he's financially secure, and for me that was a very important thing. For me to be tied down to someone, I want to be looked after. Okay, like there you go. But the whole thing is that so many times, she said, like here, she says 90% of the time on her posts she gets negative comments. People call me a gold digger and say he's your Splenda man, and you're just with him for money. She said, and it's like, well, why don't people say that he's just with me for my looks? Why is it always one-sided? I agree with her on that. But again, this all of a sudden, like, oh, we've connected and we've bonded and he's such a wonderful man. And like, I'm sorry, but I just have a hard time believing that a woman that heavily cakes on tattoos or cakes on makeup and has all these body tattoos, a single mom of one, and all of a sudden she's found Mr. Perfect and within months wants to marry this guy or talks him into marrying her. Or maybe he's just so love-bombed that he decides, oh, maybe it's a good idea to marry her and lock her down. I just have a hard time to believe. And it's not even the age difference so much. Like, I think a young guy and an older woman or vice versa can, like, really like each other. It's not even that. It's the point that, obviously, these two have very different long-term goals and backgrounds. That's all I think on that one. So, women, look, I'll give her props for one thing. Her, in this case, at least, she says, hey, I'm with him because he's got money, and he's with me because I'm young and beautiful. Again, I think that part is questionable. Props on her for at least being honest, but you'll notice so many of these influencers and these women and everything else won't step up and say, hey, you know what? I'm kind of with him because he's rich. I think if women would just step up and own that, and tell that to a guy, and a guy says, okay, at least I know the name of the game, then we'd be on level playing field. But when a woman says, oh, it's not that at all, I really like you and I really care for you, and the guy's like, great, that's awesome, let's be together, and then he surprised Pikachu face, 3 years later when she decides to bail with her boyfriend, Raul, that she met on the beach, who's, 31 years old and ripped and six-pack, and she takes half his cash, and she's like, look, you and I don't have to work anymore. I've got all this money coming in, and we can just go have fun with her new young hot boyfriend. And that's how it is. And to tell you how much that is so, the other story I'm doing today, a hot guy equals riskier behavior in women. Thank you for the user that submitted this story. It's that women are less careful with their birth control and are more likely to get pregnant with the bad boy hot guys. Why? Because there's actually something in them that's kind of like, maybe this is a guy's kid that you actually want. So I'm going to talk about that in another story. All right, we're going to move on to this other part of the video. If you're only here on YouTube, you don't get to see it because of Big Mama YouTube. So joining me over on betterbachelor.locals.com today to see the rest.